You're listening to Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. A podcast for women who've been betrayed by their intimate partner and want to turn their devastation into an invitation to reclaim themselves and their worth. Tune in weekly so you can start making sense of it all and learn how to be okay on the inside, no matter what goes on the outside. Download your free Betrayal Recovery Toolkit at betrayalrecoveryguide.com.
If you are ready to heal from betrayal on an energetic level, on a soul level, and even on an ancestral level, then you are in luck. Starting on November 15th, which is a Friday at noon Mountain. That's 11 Pacific, noon Mountain, 12 Central, and 1 Eastern. We are going to get together on Zoom for an hour of energy healing for only $7. And yes, for that $7, you get the live energy healing, but you also get an audio replay so you can go through and you can use these tools again on your own. How do you sign up? I'm so glad you asked. Go to the website stopselfbetrayal.com and you can sign up right there. And there's also a link to make payment right there. Again, it's only $7, www.stopselfbetrayal.com, and you can start healing on an energetic, soul, and ancestral level today. So I look forward to seeing you on Friday, November 15th. stopselfbetrayal.com. Hello and welcome to Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. I'm Lora Cheadle, and today we are going to do the third part of the Egypt series. And what is meaningful and what is important about this part is this is the part about raising yourself from the dead, rising from the ashes, creating yourself anew, stepping into your sovereign power so you can become who and how you are. And from that resurrection of self, that owning and claiming your power is what leads to playfulness and light. It leads to beauty, vulnerability, a reclaiming of the innocence and of trust. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today is that arc of reclaiming yourself, stepping back into your power, and understanding also of why these bad things happen, why infidelity happened for you, not to you. But before we go there, I want to remind you to go to stopselfbetrayal.com if you want to join me for my Zoom online energy healing session. So stopselfbetrayal.com, sign up there. You get the Zoom link. It's $7. It's not a big deal at all, but you can then start getting some of this energetic healing so you really can rise yourself from the ashes, reclaim your identity, your self-confidence, your self-worth, and then rise and move forward as the divine sovereign being you are, co-creating the rest of your life. So stopselfbetrayal.com and let's talk about this. Okay. You might have heard me talk about the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet before, but she is the goddess that has got the head of a lion and the body of the woman. And she's always been super meaningful to me because she is powerful. She is feminine and she is powerful and she takes no BS. And I feel like, especially us in this betrayal state, it's really important to embody that beauty, that femininity, that divine power, but also to be in a place of strength where we take no BS. And what I love about Sekhmet is she is a destroyer, and she is also a bringer of new light. And isn't that what happened in the infidelity journey with you? Didn't it destroy everything? It destroyed our old marriages. It destroyed a lot of our confidence. It destroyed what I truly thought was my ability to be happy. I really thought this was it. Like the best of me, the best of my life, it's all over. It really destroyed all of that. And we're so conditioned to think that destruction is wrong. And I guess here's the thing, like it can be bad. Destruction can be bad, but destruction is not always bad. And that to me is the power of Sekhmet. Sometimes things need to be destroyed. Sometimes we can't just go about rebuilding something where the foundation is so cracked. It's not worth it. And here's the thing, for a long time, I would have denied that my marriage had a cracked foundation. I was in that place of like, we really have a great marriage. And there were a lot of great things about it. But I truly was in the place of not seeing, not admitting to myself the ways where it was toxic, the ways where it was unhealthy, the places where I was accepting scraps or where I was putting up with bad behavior that I didn't really need to put up with, that I didn't deserve to put up with, all of that stuff. And that's where the energy of the goddess Sekhmet comes in, is that destroying of the old, of what really needs to be destroyed. And with time, with perspective, with wisdom, with understanding, I came to see how there were some unhealthy things in my relationship, how there were some things that I just thought, oh, that's him. That's just my husband. He's just that way. And it was like, but Lora, do you deserve to be criticized like that? Do you deserve to not have that support? Do you really deserve to be in a relationship where you can't speak your truth for fear of somebody else falling apart? Do you really want a relationship where you have to walk on eggshells to prevent somebody else from being triggered and then destroying the evening? And for a long time, I would have said, no, I can just manage him and that's okay. And I know what I have to do to keep the peace. And it's okay because he's had trauma and he gets stressed out and he's working really hard. And it's hard to have kids. And I have more patience than he'd like. All of those excuses. I gave all of those excuses. And that's the power of Sekhmet, to be like, there's more here for me. And it's time to clear the way, to clear it energetically, to clear the habits of the relationship, because I deserve more. So that's why I love Sekhmet. And that's kind of my challenge for you, is to start looking at yourself, your life, your relationship, the habits that you've fallen into, and ask yourself, really, what is it time to clear? What really is it time to destroy? And how can you lean into that? And destruction does not have to be like this D-Day destruction. I mean, that's a big destruction. Destruction can take place in a much more conscious, aware level. But how can you embrace the destruction that just happened in your life? How can you embrace the bomb that just went off in your life? How can you find some gratitude for that? Because it's awfully hard sometimes to be the destroyer, to be that strong, to hold firm in, I know I need to address this issue, but sometimes it's easier to learn how to tap dance around it and to manage it than it is to address the issue. So when somebody cheats, how can I be grateful that now this issue has been brought so front and center that it's been destroyed, that I have to address it now. So let's talk about Karnak. And Karnak is the temple of Sekhmet, the temple where the big statue of Sekhmet sits. Interestingly, next to the Osiris temple, and Osiris was the one who was resurrected from the dead. Osiris is the resurrection story. Sekhmet is the clearing the way story, kind of like Noah's Ark, how Noah's Ark destroyed everything so there could be this beautiful rebirth. That's the Sekhmet story. Osiris and the resurrection is like Jesus and the resurrection. Sekhmet and the way she destroys is like Noah's Ark and the destruction of the flood. So that way you have some context. Okay. When we visited the Karnak temple, which has both the Osiris temple and the Sekhmet temple, we got up super early in the morning and we went when it was still dark outside. And it was magical because you go outside and you're driving, across the desert to this gorgeous temple, and there's palm trees and there's this huge obelisk. And Karnak is one of the, if not the largest religious centers in the world. It's kind of an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different temples that have been built over thousands of years. And it's vast and it's amazing. So it's dark. The stars are out. The moon is out. And we are ushered into this temple complex. And we get to walk through all the temples to go to these back rooms where the Osiris chapel is, where the Sekhmet chapel is. And the guides have these little flashlights that they shine down on our feet because we're on this dirt path and there's rocks and things like that. So it's amazing and it's dark. And every now and then we would hear a rooster or a dog in the background, and it's just incredible. And we get to this chapel where Sekhmet is, where the big statue of Sekhmet is. And I already love her for all of the reasons that I just told you. Like, she is my goddess. I love her. I love the power of leaning into the destruction and being brave enough to destroy that which needs to be destroyed, and then be brave enough to rebirth in a way that you want to rebirth, to rise from the ashes your own way. So we go into this temple and we start doing some sonic rituals, some sounding. And so we're humming and there's that vibration. People are singing at different pitches and people are doing their own things. And then one at a time, we get to go up to that statue. And like I said before, since we were in the private access, the guards were letting us touch the statue. And it was like my heart, as I stood in front of her, my heart was just beating in my chest so hard because she is so meaningful to me and because I really wanted to have an experience with her. And I was just hoping that something would happen. And I didn't want to be in that place of like, yeah, I went up to Sekhmet and nothing. So I stood in front of her and I looked up. And in this dark stone room is a little square, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches by 6 to 8 inches, and it's a square. And you look right up and it's right above her. And for all the world, what it felt like was, like in Star Trek when they're like, beam me up. It felt like I could just be beamed up. It felt like she was the guardian of that portal where you could just be beamed up. And as I was standing there, and there was some lights because the guards had the lights, they turned off their light. And it was pitch black in there. And I was with her. And I moved my eyes up to look at that hole because I was curious, could you see more stars? And this hole already felt so magical. It felt like a portal. And I look up and I see this inky black night sky with these little pinpoints of stars. And from in front of me, I hear her say, it's going to kill me. I hear her say, it needs to be dark in order for you to see the light. And it made so much sense. It needs to be dark in order for you to see the light. And it made me think about the day sky. Like, the stars are there, but we can't appreciate their beauty. They're all there. It's just that we don't see it. And we need the dark in order to see the light. And I thought, that's that whole balance of destruction and rebirth, dark and light. That's that whole balance. Like, we don't live in a world where it can all be birth and light the whole time. If it's birth the whole time, we get overpopulation. We need to have that death to round it out, to balance it. We can't just keep building on cracked foundations. Mistakes get made, opinions change, desires change. Destruction is necessary. Things like forest fires, how they create the nutrients in the earth, destruction is necessary. In the same way that darkness is necessary in order to see the light. And as I was having that experience, which felt like a whole eternity right there, I moved my eyes back down and I reached my hand up to stroke her nose, because she has, like, you know, the lion head, the cat face. And I put my hand on her nose. And for all the world, it felt like a purr vibration was coming out, a rumble. And the word that I heard, the sound that I heard, the energy that I heard was like a priyatatata, 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 priyatatata. And I just sat there with my hand on her nose and just felt that vibration fill me up, just as the guards turned on the light. And I was afraid that once they turned on the light, the magic would go away. I was afraid that I needed that darkness in order to connect with and access all of that magic. But I didn't. Because once my awareness was there, it had been anchored into my being. I anchored in the awareness of that vibration, of that priyatata, priyatata. I anchored in the vision of those stars, and I looked up, and no, they weren't as bright, but they were still there. And it felt so much more rounded out and whole and cohesive. And I thought that I would want to stay there longer. I thought that I would want to stay with her. I thought that I would want to have this moment of deep spiritual communing. I thought I would want more. And I felt done. I felt complete inside. And there's other people waiting. So the practical part, okay, it's time, I'll leave. So I turned around and I left. And I sat outside. I started walking a little bit to maybe explore some more, because that practical part of me, like, hey, I'm in Egypt, I'm at the temple, I'm only here for a few hours, I want to capitalize on my experience and see what I want to see. I had that moment. And then I was like, no, I just want to be with this experience, because it was deep. And that whole thing felt meaningful. So I walked a little bit until I found a place outside, and some other people were sitting on some of the ruins. And interestingly, we had talked on the bus ride over about how some of us felt this desire to, like, lay on a slab and just be there, where you don't have to think, you don't have to work, you're just laying on a slab. And we were kind of joking about it, but I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to lay on a slab. I want to, like, lay on a slab of granite. Well, sure enough, I found this big, and I don't know if it was a rock. I don't know if it was like a part of the temple piece, but I laid down, and it's dark, but it's warm. And I just started looking at all of the skies and just connecting in and feeling with that experience. And just then, call to prayer started. And if you haven't heard the way call to prayer rolls across the country, it's powerful. It doesn't matter what you believe, it is the vibration of prayer. It's the vibration of faith and trust and love and divine connection and of reverence and of devotion. And every cell of your body lights up. Oh, it is amazing. And I just laid there, and call to prayer started echoing, literally echoing across the desert. And as I had said earlier, there were some roosters, and then there were more roosters. So there's call to prayer and there's echo, and it's like it moves from one end to the other. And the sun starts coming up and the stars start fading. And it was almost like I became one with the vibration of everything, with the vibration of the sound, the prayer, the experience, the connection with Sekhmet. And it was like my borders of who I was dissolved. And I felt this enormous connection, obviously, but peace, this deep, deep peace with the enormity of it all. And that my place within the enormity of it all was so secure. And it really felt like so many things didn't matter, but they didn't matter in that, like, they were irrelevant. They didn't matter in that they were so small, and that we were so vast, and that we were all so big. And I lay there for a while just experiencing that. And the sound of her, that just kept coming in. So during our entire trip, we went with 4 different luminaries. John Burgos, who does the Beyond the Ordinary podcast and show, was the one who kind of co-created this trip. He brought in Jamie Price as the luminary, Meg Benedictine, and Wendy Kennedy. Meg, Wendy, and Jamie all speak light language. And I really hadn't known much of what light language was. I had heard Wendy speak light language. Wendy Kennedy has been on my podcast. If you're interested, go listen to the podcast with her. But I hadn't heard of the other people. I didn't know about them. And although I was interested in light language, I was like, oh, that's so cool. It's like this weird language. I didn't know what it was or why it mattered. I just thought it was like some weird thing that people did. I channel. That's a weird thing that I do. Whatever. And I was like, I guess light language is just some weird thing that people do, but I didn't know what it was. Nor did I ever have like an interest in learning more about it or seeing if I could speak it or figuring that out. It was just like, you know how it is, how sometimes there's things and you're like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. I'm not really that interested. Kind of like before I went to Egypt, I was like, yeah, there's this whole galactic thing, not really interested in that. I'm just like deeply spiritual. But nah, I mean, there's things that captivate you and there's things that don't. Light language was one of those things where I was like, yeah, whatever, that's cool. Sounds awesome. Yes, when people feel it or speak it, I can feel it. And I feel like, I'm sure it's doing something, but whatever. So I start walking. This will blow your mind. This will absolutely blow your mind. Not as much as it blew my mind. I'm walking. I start thinking, I'm just going to start walking. I want to be here. I want to, again, visit the Osiris temple, reconnect to that whole resurrection. Because after my experience with Sekhmet, I felt like I'm resurrecting myself. I don't need somebody else to resurrect me. I am resurrecting myself. How do I step into the power of resurrecting myself? So I go walking around trying to find that Osiris temple, try to just maybe pay homage a little bit to the idea of resurrection. And you know, when you throw up and you feel like, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. I don't want it to come. It's coming, but it's coming. I had that sensation. And I was like, is this a burp? What's going on? I have this sensation. And I kind of opened my mouth to breathe. And I kid you not, light language started coming out. All of these sounds, all of these words, all of these ticking and breathing and syllables started coming out. Yeah. And I thought, I don't know what I'm saying or why or what it means, but I just need to let this happen. So I grabbed my phone and I started recording, and I was like, I got to record this because this is happening. And I started recording it, and it flowed. I didn't record the whole thing because at some point it just kept coming. So I stopped it. But maybe for 20 minutes, just light language came out, words came out. And it was odd. It was odd because my mind kept stopping up. My mind kept being like, I don't know what this means. And who am I now? And is this a skill and ability I now have? Or is this a one-time thing? And what is light language? Long and the short, I asked the guides on the trip, what is this? Long and the short is they said it's like the universal language that we all understand. Kind of like how they say mathematics can be a universal language that we all understand. So is light language. It's that universal language that everybody knows on a cellular level. Everybody knows on a soul level that we all have access to, and it can help realign us to our divine blueprint. It can help reclaim that origin point and align us, again, going back to show number 1, to our Zeptepi, to that origin point, to that first place of where we were. And I asked, like, is this a one-time thing or do you have access to it? And I was told it can be both. Once you've had access to it, the pathway is open, the channel is open, and you can consciously choose to bring it in again, possibly, or it can come through you, possibly, but that channel has been opened. So, long story short, again, when I got home, it was about 3 days after I got home, and I was curious and a little afraid because this was something that was a little out of my wheelhouse. I started doing mindless activity. I started dusting. And as I was dusting, I just connected and said, I'm interested in reconnecting to that part of me. If there is a message, please let that flow. And sure enough, it started flowing. And then 2 nights ago, when I was in bed, I was doing a meditation right before bed. And I had that sensation again that something needed to come out. And the words started coming out again. So I feel like it's there, but I also feel like my conscious part is blocking a little bit because I don't have a real understanding of what is this and why am I doing it and what is the benefit? And that's the lawyer part of me. I always need to understand why things work. I need to understand what is the benefit and why does it work in order to connect with it. So that is on my list of things to do. That is on my list of things I want to learn about, things I want to explore, things I want to play with. So that's my little sidebar about weird Lora doing weird things about light language, but more to come as I figure that out. Now, back to being in Karnak, back to being at the Sekhmet temple, as the sun is rising and call to prayer is rolling across and there's roosters crowing and all that stuff. There's also this amazing obelisk over there. So I started walking towards the obelisk, walking towards these other temples. People were wrapping up their time with Sekhmet. And the next place we went was a series of 2 rooms within a temple. And one room had the 7 keys. And it was this pattern of like 4 keys on the bottom and 3 keys on the top with a flower of life and the bird Horus. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go to that temple, stand in front of the keys with an open heart, and ask, what do you need the key to? What is that next key that is going to open things up for you? So that's my question for you, and that's what I want you to do. In your mind's eye, stand in front of 4 keys on the bottom, 3 keys on the top. Now, these are the Egyptian Ankh key that looks like a cross with a round loop over the top. But that doesn't have to be the key that you are picturing in your mind. It can be a skeleton key. It can be a modern day key. It can be some kind of key. And just stand in front of those keys and ask from your heart, what is the key that I need? What will unlock my next level? What will unlock my next layer of consciousness? What will unlock that next thing for me? And as you do that, one key will light up. It will jiggle. Hold your hands out, like cup your hands. Ask for a key to fall in your hand. All in your mind's eye. Do this in your mind's eye whenever you're stuck, whenever you can't move ahead, whenever you're locked into obsessive thoughts, whenever you can't decide, whenever in that place of being like, why can't I heal? Why can't I get over this? Why aren't things working out? Ask for that next key, put your hands out, and it will be delivered to you. And hold that key, honor that key, have some gratitude for that key. And then you move to the next room. And the next room had 7 doorways, like within each other. So picture a door with 7 levels of door framing around it. So like one door frame, and then a door frame around that door frame, and a door frame around that door frame, 7 times. So those are the 7 doors. And the key that you get will unlock that door so you can go through to your next level of consciousness, to your next level of healing, to your next level of whatever it is. And that's something that, yes, you can go to the Karnak temple and you can do that, or you can do it in your mind's eye. And I have done that in my mind's eye several times upon my return. And I have to say that every single time I have gotten a different key, and it has unlocked something in me differently. And what I really appreciate and love about this whole Karnak temple and Osiris and Sekhmet and the keys and the doorways is this is all things that we're doing for ourselves. I activate myself. I resurrect myself. I meditate on the key. I go to the door and I open my own door. Because that is something that I have been stuck in. And it's my guess that, like me, you have been stuck too, where you're like, I need the right therapist. I need the right book. I need the right partner. I need the right person. And it's always something outside of ourselves. And it's not. It's what we do for ourselves. It is birthing our own self. It is birthing our own resurrection. It is meditating and taking our own key. It is us walking to the door, opening that door, and moving through, choosing to step through that door. And that is the power that I got from that Sekhmet temple. That whole going back to the beam me up, when I looked up and there was that opening in the sky in the ceiling of the temple, and I felt like beaming up. That's what it is. It's beam me up, and it is I beaming me up. It is us choosing to elevate ourselves. So we went to the hotel, we had a break because that evening was the lunar eclipse. And it was the lunar eclipse in Libra, which is about balance. And we were going to the Luxor temple at night to celebrate the eclipse. I know, right? The Luxor temple, for those of you who don't know, is a temple that is based on the body. I had no idea about this. When you look at it from an elevated position, like from the, from a helicopter, from above, looking down on it, it's got the head all the way to the feet. And it's the chakra system of the body. And everything that you think about with the different chakras, the root, safety and security, the navel chakra, sensuality, pleasure, solar plexus, power, heart, love, throat, voice, third eye, vision, crown, connection with spirit. All of those things are written in the hieroglyphs on the wall in that part of the temple. And the foot part of the temple is angled. And interestingly enough, it is angled to the same degree that the giant statues that welcome you in, they're stepping forward with the left foot, and the left foot is stepping forward. And I forget if it's like at 12, stepping forward at like 12 degrees, whatever that angle is of their legs. That base temple at the foot of the Luxor temple is also angled at 12 degrees or whatever degrees it is. So the big statues and the temple itself mirror the chakra system in our body. And you walk in from the feet, from the root. And as you go deep within, you move up the chakra system all the way up to the crown. And it was at the crown where we did the meditation for the full moon. And since it was the full moon in Libra, it was balance. It was balance within, it was balance without. It was balance and harmony on a planetary scale, on a galactic scale, on a familial scale, on an ancestral scale. It was bringing in all of that balance within nature, on the earth, within our bodies. And it highlighted for me how much has been out of balance. And I thought back to a couple days before when I did the balloon ride over Luxor or over the Nile River, how it was like milk and honey and green and fertile, wham, desert. And it's that we can have both, but it's that balance. And then it brought me back to the morning when I was looking at the stars and I got the message, you need the dark in order to see the light. And it was just such a beautiful reconciliation of balance. And how when really bad things happen, and they do, and they did through infidelity, let me tell you that one, it also opens us up for really good things to happen. Because it does need to be balanced. All of that pain, all of that darkness, all of that dysfunction, brokenness needs to be balanced with the good. And what we learned in the Sekhmet temple, I do that for me. I bring in my good for me. I rebalance myself. My partner was broken, which is why he cheated. And it created destruction and havoc in my life. It is up to him to heal himself and to find that balance within him. But it is up to me to heal myself and to bring up on me all of those blessings to balance out the pain, the agony, and the destruction of that experience. And that was my meditation at the Luxor temple. And I felt really complete. And the next day we were moving to the Abydos temple. And that again is the pilgrimage spot for the worshipers of Osiris. Osiris again is the resurrection story. And I felt so complete. I was like, I'm not really sure what this is going to give me. So I wasn't very into, yay, I'm going to wear all white, because they said that was something that we could do just to, purify. And this was like the highlight of the trip. And I kind of felt like, no, the highlight of the trip already happened for me. I don't need to wear white. I don't need to move into this. But sure, I'll play along because, hey, maybe I'm just showing up as a tourist on this one, whatever. So I showed up, and this temple was filled with light in ways that I can't even describe. And if you have seen my Facebook cover photo, please go to my Facebook cover photo. You know what? Actually, I'm going to use that photo in the photo for this show. So if you haven't looked at that, please look at that because it's a stunning photo. Again, we got up early, but not super early. It was light outside. We go into the temple. There's these little squares, again, like 6 or 8 inch squares carved into the stone where the light comes in. Well, it is so dark in this temple that when the light comes in, it comes in as a beam. And I mean, as a beam. It is not like a little diffuse thing. It's solid. It is a solid beam. And it's stunning. And I was like, oh, Sekhmet told me you need to have the dark in order to see the light. And wow, look at this. And our guide was telling us about something with the hieroglyphs. And I was trying to focus because this was actually the temple where there's the hieroglyph of the submarine, the UFO, and the helicopter. And oh, yeah, they're submarines, they're UFOs, and they're helicopters. There's like no mistaking that. There's also, well, we'll get to that later, but those three hieroglyphs were there. So he's explaining it and we're talking, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm listening, but look at this light. And I walk over and I start running my hand through the light beam, and I'm like, whoa, I feel this. This is like a thing. I feel this. And I got the message. You were at the Luxor temple and you walked through root to crown. Let the light bathe you root to crown. So I stepped back, and this beam is coming in, maybe at a 45-degree angle from the ceiling. And I walk away and I start walking. So this light starts bathing me root to crown. And as I get to the point where that light is in my heart, in my face, in my head, I stopped and I just opened my heart back, tipped my head back, and I was just there and I was just present. And I just stood there and I stayed so present, so connected. And that's when my friend took the photo that is on my Facebook, that is going to be the photo in my show. And I had no idea she was taking it. And I am so glad she did, because the photo just shows exactly what that moment was for me. And in that moment, as the light is bathing me, I felt myself start to radiate. I felt myself start to light up and start to radiate. And my hands came out, and it was like light was coming from my fingers, light was coming from my skin, from my pores, from my heart. And I just stood there and I radiated. And I got such a sense of joy that I get to play in the light, that I get to play in the light. And I stepped away and I started playing with the light, and then other people started playing with the light. And for some reason, I didn't really want to start playing with them. I just wanted to be with me. And I would watch them play, and it was fun. And then I took my crystal out of my bag and I would like hold it into the light, and I would see if I could, create shadows with it. And then I would rub my hand through it and I would move my head through it. And I just had so much fun playing in the light. And I ended up disengaging from so much of the tour because I just wanted to be there playing in the light. And after we were through that temple, we went to the Osirian, which is like an older ancient place. And when we left this temple, I didn't want to leave, first of all. I wanted to stay. But we went out the back and we had to walk through the desert for a little bit. And there's a lot of, vendors, and they push you a lot. And sometimes it's uncomfortable to haggle, and sometimes it's just fine. And there was a man with his young child, and his child was maybe 3 or 4. He was adorable. And they were selling things, and he was teaching his child how to sell, how to haggle, how to keep leaning in, pestering to get the things sold. And it was, at first, the Western part of me was like, how sad. How sad that this child is out here and that this is how he's being taught to make a living, and that this is the best that they can do. And I had all this judgment around it. And then seeing the little boy, and he's there with his dad, and his dad's like, good job, ask for more, say more, follow them with this. I saw it as slightly a different perspective because I had just been in this place of joy. And I thought there is an element of play to this. There's not an element of burden to this. And it just brought to light how often play and burden is a choice that we make, and how we can see something as a burden when it really could be play, and how we don't choose to play that often sometimes, and how when we choose to play, it can just shift the energy into a state of joy. And it's like even our personal work, even our recovery from infidelity, how can we make that a little more playful, a little more joyful, a little more, hey, this is the work that I have to do because this is in the environment that I'm in, and this is what I need to do in order to resurrect myself. And I can do it with the energy of burden, or I can do it with the energy of joy. And we moved through that situation pretty quickly. We walked down into the depths of the Osirian. I keep saying it with a strange accent, and I don't know why. And there was again a gate. And inside that gate, like the stone gate, there were painted images of the flower of life. And Meg, one of the luminaries who was there, had described a meditation where that energy was like zinging back and forth from the flower of life, and that you would stand in it and you would get energized and you would get charged up. So I was excited about that, and I wanted to see the gate, but it was kind of full. So instead, we went into this temple. There's 3 pools of water that you have to walk through. And we went into this temple around this water. Interestingly, the source of those pools, it's a different source. There's a different source. It's different water. When they test it, it's not from the same source. So that's really interesting. We went into that Zep-Tepi point, and I've talked about this before, but again, it was resetting. And it was such a perfect place to reset because it's like the cave. When Jesus is killed and he goes to the cave and he hangs out in the cave for 3 days, and then there's the resurrection. And it just felt like, again, it was that starting point, this resurrection from the cave. And that when I came out, I felt a sense of rebirth. And as you come out, you have to choose left or right to go around this first pole. And on the left, there's that gate with the flowers of life. And for all the world, it felt like I get to choose this life or that life. I get to choose this experience or that experience. And I chose the left path, and I walked into that gate and nobody was there. And I stood and I put my arms out, and it was like, I am choosing to receive this energy that's going back and forth. I am choosing to receive this energy of resurrection. And again, I had a moment where I thought, I should want to stay here longer, but I'm done. And I climbed the steps up, and I looked back down at those pools and the gate and that cave. And I felt ready. I felt really ready to move on with my life, to move on in my business, to move on with myself. And that's really what I want for you, is I want you to co-create your own resurrection. I want you to co-create your own power, to choose joy, to choose to play in the light, to find that balance within, and to consciously bring in everything that is good to balance out what happened to you. I think the next time I'm going to talk about the Dendera temple. I was hoping to have time to do that today, but that is the Isis, or the Hathor temple. There's a chapel of Isis in there. There's a lot of joy in that temple. There's a lot of healing. They call that the temple of vulnerability, and how vulnerability is not scary once you have been through this dark night of the soul. Vulnerability is not scary once you have been through the dark night of the soul. It's just not. You are ready. So I think I'll start with the Dendera Temple, the Hathor Temple vulnerability. From there, we went into the Cairo Museum and the mummification and saw a lot of the King Tut stuff. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And just closing out the trip. I think that is definitely going to be my last show. So in the meantime, be sure to go to stopselfbetrayal.com, sign up for my healing. You might or might not know this, but I also offer free sessions because I've been there and I know what it's like, and it's hard to reach out and it's hard to admit, and it's hard to work with somebody who's going to not understand or going to try to sell you on something. So I always do free 20-minute sessions. So please reach out to me, book your free 20-minute session. Let's talk, whether it's about all this crazy Egypt stuff, whether it's about you bringing in joy, whether it's about affair recovery, whether it's about your dog. I don't really have an agenda for what we need to talk about. I just want to connect with you because I am passionate about bringing in the goodness after this badness. I'm a lawyer. Remember, scales of justice. We got to balance out the bad. So reach out to me, Lora at LoraCheadle.com. Have an amazing week. And as usual, always remember to flaunt exactly who you are, because who you are is always more than enough. If you are ready to heal from betrayal on an energetic level, on a soul level, and even on an ancestral level, then you are in luck. Starting on November 15th, which is a Friday at noon Mountain. That's 11 Pacific, noon Mountain, 12 Central, and 1 Eastern. We are going to get together on Zoom for an hour of energy healing for only $7. And yes, for that $7, you get the live energy healing, but you also get an audio replay. So you can go through and you can use these tools again on your own. How do you sign up? I'm so glad you asked. Go to the website stopselfbetrayal.com and you can sign up right there. And there's also a link to make payment right there. Again, it's only $7, www.stopselfbetrayal.com. And you can start healing on an energetic, soul, and ancestral level today. So I look forward to seeing you on Friday, November 15th. Stopselfbetrayal.com. Life can really knock you down sometimes, especially after a tough breakup or when someone betrays your trust. It's hard to remember your own value when the people who should have treasured you didn't. But I'm here to tell you that loving yourself again is possible even after infidelity. It takes time and intentional effort, but it can be done. That's where the Mindful Souls subscription box comes in. It's like getting a monthly dose of me time delivered straight to your door. Inside, you'll find all sorts of goodies: natural crystals, gorgeous gem jewelry, essential oils, and many other pampering tools. It's a nice little reminder that, hey, you do deserve to feel good. I know that most of you are crazy busy. You've got a ton of people counting on you, and taking care of yourself usually ends up at the bottom of your to-do list. But that's what's so great about this subscription. They don't just deliver everything you need for your self-care moments. They also give you real, practical tips on how to make self-care work for you, no matter how hectic your life gets. I've been a diehard fan of their Mindful Box for a while now, so the Mindful Souls family sent me a special treat for all of you. If you use the discount code LORA30, you'll get 30% off of your order. That's Lora, Lora 30. So head over to mindfulsouls.com and grab your box.
Tune in next time to flaunt, find your sparkle, and create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal with Lora Cheadle every Wednesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Uncover the truth of what's possible for you on the other side of betrayal and develop the skills and strategies necessary to embrace the future and flourish today. Download your free Betrayal Recovery Toolkit at betrayalrecoveryguide.com.